So picture this. It's a Tuesday afternoon, not a Friday, not a holiday, just a random Tuesday in October, and you're sitting at your desk, maybe it's 2:47 p.m., you've got another meeting in 13 minutes that could have been an email, and you're staring at the little clock in the corner of your screen wondering, in this vague, almost dreamlike way, how many more of these Tuesdays are left? Not in a dark way, just, the math of it. How many more times are you going to sit in this chair, in this building, watching the minutes tick forward, trading hours for dollars, wondering if there's a version of your life that looks a little more like freedom and a little less like this? Most people brush that thought away. They'll call it daydreaming. They'll tell themselves that's just how it works, and they'll go to their 3 p.m. meeting and forget about it entirely. And honestly, I get it. I'm Rick, and I've probably spent an embarrassing amount of time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why certain people manage to break out of that cycle while the vast majority of us just keep cycling. What is it that separates the person who retires at 42 from the person who retires at 67? Is it income, luck, some inheritance we don't know about? Or is it something simpler, more mechanical, something that's actually sitting right there in your bank account, hiding in plain sight? Here's what I think, and this genuinely surprised me when I first started digging into it. The difference almost always comes down to one number, one percentage, a ratio so deceptively simple that most financial advisors barely mention it because there's no product to sell around it, no commission to earn. It's your savings rate. And by the end of this, I think you're going to look at that number completely differently than you do right now. Let's start with what savings rate actually means, because I want to make sure we're on the same page before we go any deeper. Your savings rate is the percentage of your income that you save and invest rather than spend. That's it. If you earn $5,000 a month after tax and you save $500 of it, your savings rate is 10%. If you save $2,000, it's 40%. Simple arithmetic, middle school stuff. And yet, here's where it gets interesting. Almost no one in mainstream personal finance culture actually talks about it directly. We talk about budgets. We talk about cutting out coffee. We debate whether avocado toast is genuinely ruining a generation's shot at home ownership. It's not, by the way. We talk about side hustles and dividend investing and whether index funds are better than actively managed funds. But rarely do people sit down and say, what percentage of my income am I actually keeping? I think that's intentional in a weird way. Not like a conspiracy, nothing that dramatic. But our entire consumer economy is built around spending. Every ad you see, every treat yourself meme, every influencer hauling a new wardrobe on YouTube, it all nudges you toward the same behavior. Earn money, then spend it. The idea that you might just not spend most of it feels almost countercultural, like you're opting out of something everyone agreed to participate in. But the people who actually retire early, the ones who genuinely stop needing a paycheck in their 40s or even late 30s, they opted out, quietly, methodically, and often without telling anyone at brunch. Okay, so here's where I want to slow down because this part matters a lot, and I want you to actually feel it rather than just nod at it. There's a concept in financial independence circles, sometimes called the crossover point. The moment when your investment income equals or exceeds your living expenses. When you hit that point, work becomes optional. Not a distant dream, actually optional. The math to get there is driven almost entirely by two variables, how much you spend and how much you save. And here's the part that most people find shocking the first time they see it laid out properly. If you save 10% of your income, which by the way is roughly what conventional wisdom tells you to do, the old pay yourself first, sock away 10%, you'll be fine advice, you will need to work for approximately 43 years before you can retire. 43 years. If you start at 22, that gets you to 65, which is, not coincidentally, almost exactly when the system expects you to stop working anyway. So 10%? You're essentially right on schedule for the default life. Now watch what happens when you nudge that number. Save 20%, which still means you're spending 80% of your income, so you're not exactly eating lentils by candlelight, and that timeline drops to around 37 years. You shave 6 years off your working life just by doubling your savings rate. Save 30% and you're looking at roughly 28 years. Save 50%, meaning you live on half of what you earn, which sounds extreme until you think about it carefully. and you're looking at 17 years.